Watch this vidcast or I'll gouge your eyes out.
Welcome back, Horror Hounds, to Ghostman and Rivera's Horror Show podcast.
I'm Mike Ghostman Pickle.
And I am James Rivera. Today we have an interview for the audience with Adrian Tofei, writer-director of Be My Cat, a film for Anne. Phenomenal found footage horror movie, which he's also the lead actor in. And the upcoming We Put the World to Sleep. However, before we get into the interview, Mike and I had a couple of things to address before we get started. Like many of you, we were very disturbed by the killing of George Floyd, and this is a travesty, and it's a tragedy that happens all too often. And so many times when this issue has been brought up before, it's always been swept under the rug, and people try to ignore it. And I think it's gotten too hard to ignore it now, given the times that we're living in. And we wanted to extend our deepest sympathies and condolences to George Floyd's family and for everything that they're going through right now. This can't be easy. It's something that is changing the way that the country, the United States views race relations, and I like that. There's more of an awareness now of the issues that our country faces with regards to race. Because if we're ever to overcome these issues, if we're ever to overcome these problems that we face in society, we need to come together as people and unite so we can make sure that stuff like this doesn't happen again, and we can't allow this to happen. However, with that being said, there seems to be a backlash against this, and I find it very disturbing that it's actually reached to the horror community, and I'm very, very disappointed with how a lot of the core community has responded to the protests and to saying Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter should not be a controversial statement, not remotely. It's not suggesting that other lives don't matter, or it's not only for Black people. It's a recognition that certain people face issues in this country that other people don't. It doesn't mean that your life doesn't have less value. It doesn't mean that you're not going to face any hardships in your life. It just means that the hardships that you face are not going to be because of the color of your skin. I understand this is probably going to piss a lot of people off who don't want to hear it. I really don't care. This is something that if we're to end this, we all need to unite and stand by it. And if you don't like that, there's nothing I can do to help you with that. I always try to avoid politics, but it's unavoidable in this case. And I'm just begging the horror community. I understand a lot of people are supportive. Do not be on the wrong side of history with this issue. Please try to have some empathy, try to have some understanding as to why what's going on is going on. And I understand that all the looting and the rioting is not justified, and we don't like to see that. But please do not make that the emphasis of what's happening right here. The big issue is the way that our country has handled the systemic racism for so long and our failures to address it. It needs to be addressed now.
Yeah, there are protesters that are protesting something, a righteous cause. This man was murdered in the street. We all seen it on video. That's what the cause is. You know, and I know people don't listen to horror podcasts or watch horror podcasts to get politics, but to me, this isn't a political issue. It's a human rights issue. It's something we should all be enraged about. And enough with the excuses and enough with the denial. And we all have to speak up about this. And we had to say something on the podcast, even though we're not a political podcast. We had to say something here because it's an injustice that's going on. And it can't go unsaid. It has to stop. And we should all be in solidarity on this point. Of course, anybody that speaks up about this, they're accused of condoning the violence and the destruction, but we are not. There are protesters and there are looters, and we need to know the difference. And there's people that are taking advantage of this, the whole controversy, and using it as a way to disrupt everything. But we have to know the difference. We have to keep focused on what all this is for. And it's for injustice and a man being murdered in the street. All we want is justice, and that's it.
Yes. And we ask you, the horror community, to please, if you don't understand this issue, we ask that you look at it from a more open-minded perspective, and please fix your hearts, because we're never going to be able to overcome this until there's an acknowledgement on a wider scale about a lot of the issues that our society faces. And I don't see the point in being in denial about it. And I think this issue is far, far, far too important not to use your platform to try to spread a positive message, or to try to, create a sense of empathy and understanding for what's going on.
We barely even felt the motivation to do this podcast today. I know a lot of podcasts are being canceled, but we did have this very important interview with Adrian Tofei from Romania, and he is calling all the way from Romania, and we do still need an escape from all this. So we hope everybody will just use this as an escape, listen to a really fascinating interview for a while, but still you got to keep in the back of your mind that the country's being torn apart right now, and we have to realize what caused it.
Yes.
And make an effort to put a stop to it and speak out about it if we can.
It's only through us acknowledging our issues that we're able to face them head on and try to dismantle the issues. So, like I said, deepest condolences. Mike and I both stand by the protesters. We actually participated in a protest ourselves. We feel you, your voices are heard, and you will always have allies in Mike and I. We will always be there to stand up for any form of injustice in society, no matter who it is or what it's for. You can count on us to have your back. Now that we got that out of the way with that, all that being said, we hope to bring you a little distraction now, a little bit of fun. This interview with Adrian Tofei is really fascinating. We got him for about an hour and a half. A lot of good information here about behind the scenes, how films are made. He gives us a lot of insight into his process of filmmaking. And this is very important for any indie horror filmmakers, aspiring filmmakers. There's no such thing as aspiring filmmakers. For any filmmakers out there who are trying to get their voices out, trying to get their movies made, trying to get out into the festival circuit, and trying to make a name for themselves, you might want to take notes during this podcast, because this guy is going to give you some very good advice on how to get your films into festivals and how to get them recognized the proper way, and how to build the proper hype for them.
And his passion for filmmaking is infectious. Mm-hmm. And he has such a deep fondness for other filmmakers and a strong motivation to help them. Even though he's surfaced with only one popular movie, he still takes the bit of success that he has and uses it to help other filmmakers, and it truly excites him to help others. And that's what I really find inspiring about him.
So we hope you enjoy this interview. Adrian Tofei.
Horror show exclusive.
All right, everybody, welcome to the podcast. Adrian Tofei, the director of the phenomenal Be My Cat, a film for Anne, and the upcoming We Put the World to Sleep. How are you doing today?
Hi, thank you for inviting me to this podcast. Well, I'm I don't know, lots of things. I had to do lots of things today, and as you know, I was even late to your podcast. But okay. It's good. It's good that I don't know, things are happening with my other projects, with my film festival lists and stuff like that.
Perfect. So before we get started, how was it growing up in Romania?
How is it growing up with? Well, I had the misfortune, I think, to grow up in kind of the worst period in Romania in recent times. It was the post-revolutionary period, when communism fell, and in the 90s, communism fell in Romania in 1989, and I was born in 87. So I was 2 years when the revolution happened. And the period after the revolution was full of scarcity, and everything very, But looking back, I mean, as a child, I'm not sure. As a child, I was not aware of socio-economical and political issues in my country. Of course, at that age, I was in elementary school and then middle school. But now, looking back and thinking, my mom saying things like, "Oh, we don't have money to buy bread" and stuff like that, and more like now I'm affected thinking of what the child me had to go through back then. But back then it felt like normality for me, somehow.
Yeah. Do you think this affected the type of art that you make growing up in a country with such tumultuous issues going on?
Well, somehow it did not affect my first movie, because I think it affected other filmmakers in Romania. As you know, from Eastern Europe and from other countries, you constantly see movies with social problems, everything about all types of problems in society, and they are very successful in film festivals, these types of films. But I was never in touch with this thing. I grew up a lot because I think I grew up in my own world, because they put I think in 1994 I had cable TV for the first time, and I started watching all types of movies a little bit later, not immediately 94, later. I think I started to be interested in movies, and I grew up a lot with horror films, with American films, with Hollywood productions, but not necessarily. It's too much to say Hollywood, one of the films that impressed and influenced me the most when I was a child was Carrie, because I also had to deal with problems like that, with bullying and stuff like that. I empathize so much with that scene of her when she goes crazy and killing everybody around. So practically I grew up more like in this movie world, and that's why you can see Be My Cat has things more connected to the slasher genre and all to Hollywood and all these things, and doesn't talk about the connection to socio-economical and political problems in Romania is kind of non-existent. but I think now the situation will be different for my second movie, for We Put the World to Sleep, which goes political, but not necessarily because of the way I grew up, I think, and more because, again, paradoxically, what happened in America, and seeing how the political revolution was butchered, and all that kind of again, that kind of made me, oh my God, the world we live in and the lie we live in. Yeah.
So what were some of the first found footage films that inspired you?
Some of the first found footage films that inspired me. It was the Blair Witch Project first. I saw it when I saw it on TV in one night. I remember I was buying this when I was a teenager. I didn't have internet or computer back then. I was buying these TV guides, and they were rating movies there according to a foreign website. They were giving stars, and I was looking so much forward to watch the movie that they were rated like 4 or 5 stars, that were considered like masterpieces. I was so much interested in film history. At some point I saw this advertisement for, not advertisement, the listing for the Blair Witch Project. I saw they're rated like 4 stars, and I was like, wow, I need to watch this one. And I watched it, and it had an impact on me, but I can't say it was like a huge impact. Later, after I studied acting, and after I studied acting, a sort of method acting with a teacher called Ion Kojar, and he had this wonderful film philosophy. This wonderful directing and acting philosophy, and he said that he also directed theater shows. And he said that a theater show, in order for the audiences to empathize with what they see and what they hear, they shouldn't have any element whatsoever in that show to remind them that what they are watching is just a show and not reality. He said, like, the audiences, when they look, they should see exactly life as if it happens in real life. No element whatsoever that thing is staged. And then they will fully empathize with what they see. And then when I studied these things in college, you know, and I learned about these methods, and then I made the connection actually with the found footage method of filmmaking. Then I realized, just a second, but actually what this guy did in Romania, like this wonderful philosophy, the people already did that in film, you know, in the found footage, you know, by removing any element whatsoever to remind you that what you're watching is a movie that really wants to pass as genuine footage, you know. And this makes you really, really and fully empathize with what you see. And that's when I became that's when I started to have a real interest in found footage, when I really understood it and I really understood the philosophy behind it, which at the same time, I'm not sure that the people making found footage are actually care about this philosophy. You know, mostly they are doing it because Blair Witch was successful and they just want to make money out of it. But anyway, for me it's different. For me it's a philosophy there.
So you attended.
Yeah, sorry. The question was other found. The found footage films that influenced me, and I've only talked about one. So the other two that influenced me were the most. I would say they are Exhibit A, found footage film, a UK production from 2007, won the Raindance Film Festival, and the other one is Zero Day, I think from 2003. Zero Day, about two kids that plan on a shooting assault on their high school. So these films are not horror. I think there are two examples that of very well-made found footage that is not horror. And I was always interested in that. I was always interested in the idea of using found footage not only for horror, not only for exploitation. You know, I think a lot of powerful, dramatic and metaphysical stories can be told using the advantage of the realism that found footage can provide. Not only found footage. For example, my next movie is not found footage. Nobody finds the footage. It's more like mockumentary, because found footage implies that the footage is lost and then found and edited by different people than those involved in filming. Mockumentary, my next film is not, it has exactly the shape of a found footage film, but it's not lost. I mean, the people shooting it are the ones presenting it to the people in the end, you know. So they are like interlinked and changeable, these two concepts.
So yeah. You attended the Lower Danube University of Galatia to study acting, and then you went on to Spiru Herot University of Bucharest to attain your master's degree. How did these experiences shape you as an actor and as a filmmaker?
Well, as an actor, I can tell you they shaped me a lot. The first one, especially the first one, because the teacher that I had, he studied with you know, I was telling you about Ion Kojar, that guy that has that wonderful philosophy in theater and acting, and that influenced me with found footage and stuff. So the teacher that I studied acting with, he was one of his students, and he was one of the best teachers in Romania that still continued his method. And the method was that that the actor shouldn't fake. That the secret of acting is that you shouldn't act, that you should go through a genuine process in which things happen to you the way they happen to you in real life, you know. So this combined with the directing philosophy that the theater show shouldn't have any elements whatsoever to remind you that you are watching a show. I made the connection with the found footage and with the improv style used in found footage, you know, because in acting as well, I think improvisation is extremely important, because once you have a script, once you already know what is going to happen, then your reactions cannot be 100% fully natural. Once you already know what you're in life, things don't happen this way. We never know what is going to happen. We never have lines prepared in advance, and everything that happens, it just surprises you, just takes you unaware, and you need to go through a genuine process of solving every how should I say, challenge that comes in life, in a discussion, in a conflict, in an action sequence, whatever, and when you use a script, you need to pretend that you don't know what is going to happen, and you need to make an effort to forget them, but you can't fully forget that you already know. So you just need to follow a path, so it's not fully natural, and because of that, I think audiences cannot fully empathize with what's happening, with what they see with acting, and this definitely influenced me as an actor in terms of and also as a filmmaker. Interestingly, this thing from acting also influenced me as a filmmaker, because I'm shooting movies without a script. It just has some plot points, but actors don't have lines. We don't know the details of what's happening. That's intentional, both for the acting, but also for the creativity of the story, because I also believe something else. When you talk about creation needs to be kind of like something new. You need to arrive at something new, something authentic that hasn't happened before. And when you have a script, kind of that creativity comes from the mind of the script writer. He imagines how things would happen and he puts them, and then you just kind of reproduce what was already written. So I like this full act of creativity when the film kind of, and everything is being written at the same time while it's happening, So it's a very inclusive and explosion, I would say, of creativity when you improvise, because it's both acting and directing and writing and everything at the same time. In the end, what you have footage that resembles life. You'd have footage that doesn't show reality, because it's it's within fictional circumstances. I mean, the story is fictional, but when you look at it, it resembles so much reality. It's like a parallel reality to our reality. And then you can look at that footage. You record, like for my latest movie, I recorded like 90 hours. And then you can look at that footage like a documentary would look at real footage, And you just assemble the story in post-production during the editing phase. But practically that's when I really write my movies, the details of my movies, in post-production. I look at it the way a documentary filmmaker would look at real footage he shot or he took from other sources. Yeah, so that's how my acting studies influenced both my acting and my filmmaking method.
So tell us about the independent filmmaking community in Romania. Is it large, and was it hard to find actresses who are willing to be in a project like this where they're going to be one-on-one with the filmmaker?
Well, I don't know much about the filmmaking community in Romania, because I don't think there is much of an indie spirit of filmmaking in Romania. There is a lot of fear surrounding making a movie. From what I've learned from people that studied, for example, film in the university in Romania, in the film school, they don't have the courage, because they put these ideas into their heads. The teachers put the idea into students' heads that you need so many things in order to make a feature. You need to have a company, you need to have great equipment, you need to have a lot of experience, you need to make a lot of short films before making a feature. You need this, you need this, you need this, you need that. A lot of obstacles. And when you look at all that list, you feel like, oh my God, I can't I don't have the courage to start making a feature, I did not have that. I more like took the example, I think, probably, I don't know where I've learned about it. Probably I read about it, or I saw some sequences or some documentaries, more like this American spirit, like this indie thing, you just put your hand on a camera or whatever, and then you just shoot something and that's it. It's a movie, like more like this. You don't have to limit yourself, like in terms of, you just find your own ways, So that's how I did my first film, and I learned how to do it, and I adapted at every step, at every phase of the process. I learned filmmaking while filmmaking, and I also found my own ways of filmmaking while doing that. Yeah, and so because of that, I think the actual film industry in Romania is very different. I think they take money. I think it is a good part of films are state sponsored. In order to make a movie which is state sponsored, you also need to have connections, collaborations with the film company. You need to have a very detailed film project, a very detailed script, everything. You have connections and stuff. In order to receive points from that film council, in order to receive the money. It's I don't know, that process is scary for me, I don't know how to go through that thing, And first of all, even if I had all the connections and everything that's necessary, I'm not sure if I could do a film the official way the film industry does it, because I don't work with a script, and I don't like working with, I mean, that's the concept actually, and that's actually in the end, it's in a way the essence of the success of my films, because they look natural. Because if I use the script, they wouldn't look that natural and they wouldn't be successful. So so it's hard to convince. Because of that, it's hard to convince. Without the script, it's very hard to work in the film industry, because they built the film industry so much based on the idea of script. They say like, oh, everything starts with a script, and I don't have the thing that everybody says that everything starts with. So okay, so because of that, yeah, as I said, like I'm not in touch with what's happening. But in terms of acting, I would say, yeah, there are a lot of indie actors, and there's a lot of, I would say, indie theater done in Romania. Like there's another thing. When you study acting, we don't have a connection between acting and film, unfortunately. When you go through an acting study to an acting school in Romania, an acting college, university, you get kind of unintentionally brainwash you that the only thing that there is for you in this world is theater. Like acting is theater. So when you finish an acting school, you only think about theater. And actually it took me a while to remember that, just a second, I'm not a theater guy, I'm a film guy. All my teenager years, and I read and I watched movies, I was not into theater. So it took me a while to recover from this as well. So because of that, there is a lot of indie theater, a lot of actors. They finish school and then they all of a sudden they realize, okay, so what? We don't have a big film industry in Romania. We don't have in general a big industry that gives actors opportunities, and they are panicking. Oh my God, how am I going to make a living? So they start to make these small groups, and they start to do either improv, either stand-up comedy, or they start to do theater shows. I also did theater shows. One of them actually was the basis for Be My Cat, that theater show. It was called The Monster, and I played it in different venues, like in bars, also in theaters, but also in bars, in very environments that are not mainly designed for theater. So there is this active indie community, and these actors, I think, because they are taught this way, to adapt, because they know that they might not catch a seat in a top theater, they know they need to adapt to smaller improvised productions. I think it was not very hard from them to switch to adapting to, rehearsing a theater play in in a small apartment room, you know, and then play it in a bar. It was not very hard for them to go all of a sudden and do this creepy little film production, you know, only with the director, you know, because they already come from that mentality. I think that helped. Yeah.
Okay.
Where did you first get the idea of Be My Cat, a film for Anne? What made you? What prompted you to make the movie?
It's a long process. I'm gonna try to make it short. So first, at the end of college, we did a theater show in which all of us had monologues. We were playing people with all types of psychopathic characters, people that are locked in mental asylums. And the story of the show that we were appearing in front of the committee, and we were trying to convince the committee. The committee was the audience, actually. We were appearing one by one in front of the audience, and we were trying to convince the committee that we are eligible to be set free, you know, to be released from the hospital. And then we were telling our stories this way, and there was type of a dark humor, because our stories were actually horrible. They were talking about horrible things they did and all that. And I had a monologue about a guy which has some issues with cats, which he was kidnapping a girl and stuff like that. He was telling his story and what he did to that girl and stuff like that, you know. And after college, when I finished college, I went to masters, and during masters, I developed that monologue that I had in that show. I developed it into a full one-man show, and that one-man show was called The Monster. It was the guy again appearing in front of the committee, and he was telling his story, but more was I also was inspired. I wrote that one-man show. Also inspired from that monologue, and also inspired from some real events, and also inspired from a documentary film. So later, after I played that, at some point I had success with that one-man show. I went to a couple of festivals, and in Romania, and in one of them, at the end of the show, like people were like literally they were in tears and applauding and laughing at the same time, and constantly calling me again and again for applause. And then that's when I realized, like, oh my God, like I really have the potential to do something all by myself that would really have an impact on an audience, is a strong impact. That I can do something by myself as a writer, producer, actor, like everything. I don't have to depend. If there are no opportunities that come to me, I will make my own opportunities, you know? So that's when I realized, yeah, I can do it. And then I realized, but just a second, there's no point in working. So if I can do this for audiences in theater, I can do this in a movie as well, you know? And that's when I reconnected with my passion for movies. And I also realized, hey, like, if I'm doing this, with movies, I can reach many more people around the world, not just a couple of people in a theater room in Romania. Just that is wonderful as well, you know, but I think I'm more inclined to having more of a global vision, you know, reaching more people worldwide. You know, I don't like things when are that much limited, I think. And also because that's my passion. I mean, big passion was filmmaking. And then when I decided to do the movie, I kept practically, the movie was inspired by the psychology of my character in that one-man show. I didn't take the story of the one-man show, but I took kind of my character in that one-man show. And my character in the one-man show kind of dictated the story of the movie, you know, because he had an issue with cats, you know, and he was kidnapping an actress. And in that one-man show, I also mentioned the name of a real Romanian actress, you know. And then I thought, okay, I can do that, but it has to be, I can keep that in the movie, this concept of having a real actress that he's addressing. But it has to be an actress that is known by everybody, you know, and that's how I chose Anne Hathaway. And also because I found that connection with her playing Catwoman, and that guy had a psychology with cats. And I also liked a lot her performance not in Dark Knight Rises as my character. Me personally, I liked a lot her performance in Les Miserables, in the musical. where she won the Oscar. Kind of I made a connection. I made an analogy. It's like psychologically I made a connection between my fascination for her acting in Les Miserables with my character's obsession for her role in The Dark Knight Rises, you know, and that also helped me with my role in the movie. So kind of that's the story of how this film came to life.
So when you were developing Be My Cat, the original story involved like a pimp, right? And then the pimp would come and retrieve the girl. So after all this planning, when you had that last minute change, when you couldn't get a hold of the actor, the pimp that played the pimp, how did you change everything around into a whole new concept?
Yeah, that was the concept. Yeah, I almost forgot about that, you know, and that's a probably you found that as a trivia either on IMDb. That's a thing that I added like recently. I thought, oh my god, that let me add it. Maybe some people will find it interesting. Yeah, so yeah, it was that concept initially, and then all of a sudden the actor stopped responding my emails, and I just couldn't get a hold of him anymore. And since the concept, I was so much fascinated with that guy's acting. We went to a competition, an acting competition in Romania. That is like a top national acting competition. We were both selected, and both me and him, we had success. I had actually a monologue from The Monster, actually playing a character which is very similar. And I'm so pissed off that I don't have the recording from that one. There is one on the internet from another time, but that one, it's not as good as the one from the competition. I'm so pissed off, but anyway. I was also so fascinated with the performance of this guy. So I thought, okay, he can be this pimp, and he's I'm like this character who is obsessed with cats and stuff, and has all these problems, this type of psychopathic character. And he's going to save these girls from this dangerous pimp, you know. And that would be the paradoxical thing, because actually the hero proves to be more disturbed and more dangerous than the actual pimp, you know. And then he wants to transform them into his cats and stuff like that. And I think that would have implied more gore and stuff, like literally taking their nails out, replacing them with cat nails. Like a more literal Be My Cat thing. And when the guy didn't stop responding, I still didn't find the reasons why. I don't know, he changed his mind, I don't know. So then I thought, okay, but the main point was to have, like, I developed that story around this guy, because his acting was so good and so authentic. I was not willing to just risk it with using somebody else. I mean, that story will develop with him in mind, you know? So since he is no longer there, I thought, okay, there is no point in keeping the story. No, I'm not keeping it. Like, I don't want to be stuck into that. So that's how I started to think of an alternative story. I would just, and in a way, it's good that it happened this way, you know, because I think that this thing with Anne Hathaway, when this guy addressing and trying to convince somebody from real life to come to make a movie with him, you know, I think it's more unique. I think the initial concept was more. Not necessarily something that has been done before, but yet some elements of it were not, or like more like things that people might have seen in other productions, you know. So in a way, it's good that it happened this way. Yeah.
So your process of filmmaking involves you taking a couple of months just to get into character and to get all of your actors and actresses to get into character. That way, when you start doing the movie and the improv comes more naturally, do you find that takes a lot out of you mentally or psychologically to get in character for such dark people for such an extended period of time?
Sorry, so the question is if I find it, I couldn't.
Okay. Do you find it, your process of filmmaking involves you taking a couple months off where you get into character and you spend time with your actors and actresses?
Yes.
I understand that helps with the improv. Do you feel that it takes anything out of you mentally or psychologically to have to go to such a dark...
Okay, I got it. Yeah, I didn't, I think it's, when I did Be My Cat, I didn't feel necessarily this way because the character was already within me because of the months of working on that theater show. So a good part of the character was already in me, already assumed for the theater show. So I just had to take it out of the box for the shootings, you know. And also I had to live in character more than it was for the theater show. And as I wrote also on the movie's trivia and all that, I did some of the things that I tried to live in the circumstances of my character. Like I moved home with my mom, lived for a year, didn't go out of the house, didn't socialize and all that. Back then I was more into this type of working. I think now for We Put the Word to Sleep, I think I was less willing to do this. I was less willing to do something to get closer to a character for my new project. I was more now I think I am more into bringing the character more towards me than me going towards the character. Like I'm not willing that much to do this. I think it's still a sacrifice. I'm not sure if it has long-term effects on my psyche. I don't think it has, because I'm still a professional actor, and professional actors, when you are using this method correctly, you know how to assume the psychology, but you also have the tools to unassume it later, like because you don't want to be affected by that. But at the same time, it just feels like it eats a good portion from your life, and you feel probably when, because I was younger, I was like in my 20s when I did Be My Cat, and then you feel like, okay, you can do that. But now I'm like 30, I feel like, okay, but I don't feel like wasting 2 years of my life being somebody else. I feel like still living life a little bit, being myself, and yeah. And because of that, I think also my filmmaking, the stories that I approach, kind of changed. Kind of the way it happened with We Put the Word to Sleep, like, yeah, there are these people who want to end the world and this and that, but they want to do it because they are disappointed with the world and how things happen in the world. And that's not something that I need to assume, because that already happened to me. I became disappointed. So the politics of my characters are closer to my own politics and disappointments and wishes and dreams. So I think I'm more towards this now.
So that brings me to my next question. I thought that Be My Cat was very effective at playing off the real fear that actresses feel when they're doing a no-budget audition or a movie. And I also thought I was very effective at playing off the delusions of grandeur that many aspiring filmmakers have. Was that conscious? Did you do that on purpose?
I don't remember. There are things, and I think it usually happens when I do interviews about Be My Cat and I asked about details like this. Sometimes it happens for me to respond that I don't remember, actually, because since working with so much improv, so many decisions being taken, so many creative decisions being taken on the spot. On the spot means two things, like either being taken in between shootings. We shoot something and then I think, okay, what am I going to? How am I going to shoot this scene for tomorrow? Considering how this scene went. Okay, I know in general what I want to have, but I don't know the details. according to the circumstances. Sometimes things happen, sometimes I don't know, and I need to adapt. I need to constantly adapt. Day after day, I need to adapt. I need to adapt to the new circumstances changing. That's one thing that constantly changes. I need to be creative literally in every moment. I need to be and then there's something, and there's a different type of creativity that actually happens during the improv, like while I'm acting, Even then, there are essential decisions being taken while I'm acting, while I'm in character. Like my character takes decisions that affect the movie, literally, affect the story of the film. And because of this process, sometimes looking back, it's hard to know how much was planned, how much happened in the last moment, how much was half planned. If it was planned, when was it planned? Was it planned while I was shooting? Was it planned like an hour before shooting? Was it planned the day before? Was it planned the year before? I don't know. Yeah.
Is it true that your movies are compromised entirely of first takes?
Be My Cat, it is made entirely of, to my knowledge, if not entirely, like I would say entirely. But if I'm making a mistake, like 99% is entirely. If I think I might have used something very small, like a couple of seconds of something that was second take or something like that. But mostly it's first take, yeah, in Be My Cat. And I think yes, my second movie, Put the Word to Sleep, will have the same thing, yeah.
I thought your laugh in the movie really stood out and really added to the creepiness of the character. So the way you laughed and the way you took such joy in the filmmaking process, and then while you were killing the women, you seemed to exhibit the same type of joy. But did that just come out in the character?
Yeah, that's in the character. That's something that was taken from. That was something that was so much taken actually from the character that I played in the one-man show. Because again, the type of acting that I did, and in school, and this teacher had this method. He said like art always should be paradoxical. If there's no paradox, it's boring. You need to see. So that's why I wanted a paradoxical character. I wanted somebody that does horrible things while exhibiting a lot of innocence, a lot of positivity on the outside, a lot of laughter. And then the audiences will really start to ask themselves questions about the human nature, about what is good, what is bad, what is evil, what is, I like to make audiences. I don't want audiences to be comfortable, because then, Hollywood does that. They just give you some films that those films speak already. They don't challenge your thoughts and your ideas and whatever. They just give you what you want to see and hear. Kind of, I'm giving things to people that challenge them a little bit, to challenge them to confront their own ideas about life and human nature and everything that surrounds us.
So
yeah,
your next movie, We Put the World to Sleep, is your follow-up to Be My Cat. From what I understand, you've conceived this as a sort of thematic trilogy. How does this connect with Be My Cat, a film for Anne, your new film? What are some of the connections?
Well, I cannot say how the way it connects. It's kind of a half sequel. And my third movie, Dr. Frankenstein, will also connect to these first two, with both Be My Cat and We Put the Word to Sleep. So they will all have interconnected characters and stories, and they will all have a meta element to them, and they will all have this. Actually, I cannot say more what they will all have. They will have things in common, and I can't say the way it connects yet, because that has to be a surprise for people watching the movie.
So there's something about Be My Cat I'm very curious about. I know that the part where the actress called the cops, that was real, that she got caught up in the moment and kind of called the cops without realizing. So the other stuff...
She realized, but I can't tell you, but okay, go ahead and I will tell you.
Okay, so there was that, and there was these other points of realism that I saw, like, did the neighbors really come to checking on the screaming girl? Was there really a house on fire near you? Did you really find a dead cat while you were talking about your dead cat?
Okay. Okay, so the thing with the actress, let me take them one by one. The thing with the actress. So, as you know, there was this complicated structure in the film. It was film within film, role within role. So, at some point, I said to Sonia, to the actress, "Hey, like when we are improvising and you are in character, you as character need to respect the indications that my character will give to you." And my character I was playing that psychopathic director. So when my character said to her character, "You need to reject me," then Sonia, my character said to her character, "Hey, you need to reject me, and whatever you do, you need to reject me for real." And because Sonia had the indication from me, like, "Hey, you need to do whatever my character says," in character, she called the police for real. So it was not like she was kind of, like, I don't know, afraid of her life and she called the police. So she surprised me. She did something for real to reject me in character while playing that thing, because she had this indication. And it did surprise me and scared me a little bit, because the budget was little and couldn't afford to pay a huge fine for calling the police for nothing. But it went well after all. They didn't give us a fine. They just give us a warning.
Okay.
A warning. Yeah.
And the neighbors?
The neighbors. The neighbors. They were the guys that helped us with the pension. They were the owners of the pension. Of course, I asked them to come and do that, but they didn't come.
Again, it seems so real. I literally can't tell whether it's real or not.
Yeah, I'm happy. Yeah.
I thought that was real too. I thought you'd really disturbed some neighbors and they came over and you just incorporated into the film.
No. I did not do that. I think there was there's another story connected to this, what I'm going to tell you at the end. Let's go to the next one. The cat. The cat thing is real. That was like an unbelievably huge coincidence. Like, while I was improvising and literally talking about cats and dogs and stuff like that, and what I did with my cat, I literally stumbled on that dead cat found on the road. And it's like,
wow.
But yeah, at the same time, this is not a huge coincidence. I'm going to tell you why. Like, so many people own cats on that street, and that street is kind of towards the exit from the city. And towards the exit, the cars they feel like they are already outside of the city, and they start accelerating, going over the speed limit. A lot of the cars are very fast, and constantly cats get killed, get smashed by cars on that road, So I don't know, if you walk a lot every day, you kind of once in a month you kind of see a dead cat, unfortunately, on the side of the road, or a dog. Not talking only about cats or dogs, same thing. And yeah, I was working that just. There were some discussions, and I'm. Some people said like, "Oh, like how could you do that? Record the cat instead of giving the cat the first aid or something." And probably people are not aware that, I don't know, living in that place and seeing other dead cats, it was obvious for me that the cat is dead. But it was like her body was stiff. She was hit by the car long ago, not immediately. It was not breathing or alive or anything. It is still, I think it is. I'm not sure it's very moral. Even so, I'm not sure if it's very moral to shoot a dead animal and to use it into fictional circumstances for a film. Probably I wouldn't do it again now. I think it just can definitely. Even so, yeah, I think it can offend, especially animal lovers. Yeah. Anyway, and the other one, which one was the fire? That was real as well. I did not set a house on fire. I did not have an accomplice secretly with the goal of setting some house on fire while I'm shooting the movie.
So
yeah,
all these moments
happened.
of magic that
yeah, that was one of those. And actually, I read some comments, and I'm so happy that when people actually understand that moment, or somebody says, "Oh," called it like an ominous shot of chimney fire, because that's not something really narrative. That's a little bit of how do you call it? The opposite of narrative in English. How do you say, like lyrical? A bit of lyrical filmmaking there. You know, you just that shot just kind of anticipates the. In a way, the fiery things that are going to happen in a way in the movie, you know? It gives you a certain feeling. Yeah, that's the thing. And yeah, so you can. Are there other things that you're wondering if were real or not? Because I'm not sure which one.
I believe that was all of them. Yeah.
Okay.
What was the process of getting your film out and getting it released? Was it tough to get it into festivals or to get distribution for Be My Cat?
Okay. Sorry. I will a little bit. I will respond to the question afterwards, because when I told you about Sonia calling the police and that, I remember something. No, about in relation to you saying that people might think that really bad things are happening in the pension. Them actually come. A different thing happened. Like recently, I was talking with somebody in Rădăuți, in my local town. And I couldn't believe what I learned. Like, he just told me that when he was in high school, like a couple of years ago, they were talking about my film, and his colleagues in high school, they were talking about it like in terms of, oh my God, do you know that guy, Adrian Tofei? Like, he actually kidnapped some actresses and did some horrible things and this and that. I was like, unbelievable. Like, to learn that actually people in my hometown actually think that the movie is real, literally. It was like, wow. So these things like this did happen, just not while I was shooting. That's the thing. Yeah. So yeah, about the festivals. About the festivals and the distribution and everything. Well, yeah. I missed, with this film, with Be My Cat, I missed a huge opportunity, because although people were saying online, hey, you need to keep your movie as short as possible and this and that, I still kept it like at 109 minutes initially. And people in this industry, distributors, festivals, they are crazy about not having long films. Especially genre films. When you submit an art film to Berlin, to Cannes, maybe that's a bit different, but to genre films and genre festivals, they want it so much below 90 minutes, I don't know. And especially if it's found footage, especially if it's something that doesn't have this good cinematography and great colors to take your eyes, you know, and to make you, when it's found footage, they want it so short. And because of that, I missed being selected to a top festival, to South by Southwest. They literally, one of the main reasons why they didn't select it was the movie was too long, you know. And I didn't wait to make it shorter and submit it the next year to that festival, to a bigger one. And I accepted a world premiere, still to a very important festival, which is Fantasporto Film Festival in Portugal. It's like one of the top foreign fantasy film festivals, but it's still like not one of the top 10 in the world. You know, it's not like South by Southwest or Tribeca or Sundance, stuff like that. You know, because it's, in order to get a good distributor as an indie filmmaker, your best chance is when you have the world premiere in a top of the top festival. You know. Like, it's not enough to have the world premiere in a top festival. You need to have it in top of the top festival in order to secure distribution, because that's where all the important distributors are crowded. The ones that can really pay you good money for the movie, and the ones that can really put the movie and promote it and even put it in theaters or on Netflix or stuff like that. And because I couldn't secure a world premiere in such a festival, it was very hard for me to find distribution. Like, the process was really long. I was in discussions with a company, with a distributor, and then with another one, and then with another one, and finally I managed to get from Terror Films, but it was a little bit too late when that happened, and the movie ended not being very successful, I would say, financially. Of course, everybody's saying like, oh, this is perfectly normal for your first picture, because you don't do your first picture in order to make money. You do it in order to launch your career and to make a name for yourself, and then you focus on other things. But yeah, I still felt like it was a missed opportunity because of this concept, with Anne Hathaway. I mean, it still has these hooks, these commercial hooks to it, that still kind of like kind of like these hooks make it more commercial, So yeah, it was really hard. It was years of trying to get it distributed. Yeah.
So one of my favorite scenes in the movie is where you almost cry from the joy because of what you're doing for Anne. So tell us about how you tapped into that emotion during these horrific scenes.
I don't think I actually cried, like having tears, like towards the end, or
yeah, it was toward the end. You were so excited over what you were doing for Anne. You almost got, I know you didn't cry, but you almost got choked up.
Oh yeah, okay, something. Yeah, kind of an intense emotion. That's something that builds up. You don't do it. That's a very important thing in acting. When you are acting, you don't try to act or to display a certain emotion. You just need to follow your goal and be honest with the process, with what's happening to you. Because if you try to display a certain option, that would come out as fake. Because we in real life, we never try to cry or to display emotions. Let's say. They happen as a result of us going through a certain process. I don't know. Let's say you meet somebody and you hug and you are happy to discuss with that person. At some point, the person gives you a bad news and that surprises you, and tears come out of your eyes. But you are not making an effort to cry. That happens because you are engaged with a certain goal, and all of a sudden you encountered an obstacle. And that just happened naturally to you. The same thing in acting, you need to constantly follow your goal and react naturally to whatever comes along the way in the improvisation. So after so much, like, I was constantly making efforts, like while playing the character, I was actually literally trying to convince Anne Hathaway with whatever I was saying to come to Romania, And because I was honest to that process and constantly following it, not trying to act, not trying to display emotion. I was not searching for something like that. Emotion ended up coming genuinely to me at some point, because obviously after so much effort of trying to convince Anne and this and that, finally I realized that me as the character, I realized that, now I became the character, the other character within him and stuff like that. And that obviously, I think genuinely gave me a certain type of emotion while improvising. And I think that's the best thing for acting in general. Yeah, not only for me.
Well, I love how you made this movie because a lot of found footage films don't give off the feeling that they're actually found footage. They seem like they're put together. Your work on this film seems like it's a genuinely found footage film, something that people just...
But it has to be this way, yeah. It has to be this way. I mean, if it's not this way, I understand, because this thing with... I was actually saying something similar a little bit. I did another podcast with somebody, kind of like talking about some similar stuff, like how other films now after the Blair, which was so successful, they are just imitating the found footage style. You know, they are not doing actual found footage movies. You know, they are just trying to find the recipe. You know, instead of actually being creative, you know, just putting some actors there with cameras in their hands, you know, and let them literally go through a certain experience, you know, in order for you to have the footage, to create a found footage film. They are hiring these professional cinematographers to shake the camera intentionally in order to create the feeling that found footage. I don't know, this doesn't work. Like, you cannot mimic creativity. You need to be creative, not to mimic creativity just because that looked commercially successful, you know. And because of that, most found footage films do not work, and they are still successful. People are still watching them. People are buying into this thing, and I don't know. That's it. But I cannot make that. Yeah.
So I have a question about your character's motivation on one part. Now, I literally cannot tell where your character realizes that he's in trouble and he needs to run, because he's always so calm and fearless. Do you remember what that moment was for you, where the character realizes what he's done and that he needs to go?
Which moment exactly?
Because throughout the movie, you don't seem to realize that there's repercussions to what you're doing.
So
and then suddenly at the end, it seems you realize that, okay, I have to run now.
Towards the end. But there is another moment, I think, in the middle. I think somewhere after the first actress. He said like, oh, bye now, bye, and I need to go now because I need to make sure that everything is okay. And yeah, but I didn't keep... I had a longer dialogue there. He was actually saying that he is worried that, oh, what if Sonia's parents will ask about her? What if her friends will ask about it? But I cut that part. I didn't keep it because it was too much talking. Okay. He was actually worried a little bit even before. Yeah. And in the end, because he I don't know, he realized that he just a second. Yeah, I remember him being... I don't think he's not a totally psychotic person. I think he is still a psychopath. Because a totally psychotic person would do these things and being totally unaware that what he's doing is wrong. I think he has an awareness that he needs to protect himself to not be discovered by authorities, by police, by other people. In the end, he's still a psychopath and not just a totally psychotic person. I mean, he is not somebody... I think if he would be tried for what he did, I don't think he would go to a mental institution. I think he would go to prison. I think they would discover that he was aware, you know, of what he was doing. Somehow he chooses to indulge himself into this idea that everything is good, everything is happy, shiny, make love, not war. I think he lies to himself about this, but deep inside, he is still careful to not be caught about what he's doing.
Your portrayal of a psychopath seems very realistic, the way that you play it. Did you create like a character biography, or did you have the guy's story in mind or his entire history when you were playing the character?
Yeah, this character evolved, as I said, a lot. It started to evolve from high school. So all that history was built little by little over the years. So literally, I started to work on it in 2009. So it had an evolution of 5 years till 2014 when I shot the film. So you can consider that background and history was definitely work. But not only in one part. Oh, this is the thing, and you know, multiple stages of development throughout the course of first the monologue, then the one-man show, and then the movie. Yeah.
So my next question is, I have this question as a fan of the film. In that final scene, without giving too much away, was the victim sincere, or are we supposed to not know whether she's sincere or not? where she starts to show real compassion for him, and she said, "You can kill me, and I'm so happy for you."
Well, let me put it this way. From what I remember, again, because I don't know exactly the details. From what I remember, I think I told the actress that she needs to convince me that I don't have to do this for Anne, and she needs to convince me about the love and all the great things and stuff like that. Now, I think it depends on what the actress chose in that moment. If she chose to lie in order to convince me, like to lie so good as to look truthful, just in order to convince me while acting in character, or if she actually chose, okay, what if me as my character, actually in a weird way I empathize with this guy. So I think the best answer would be that even I might not know exactly what was in her mind at that point. It depends on her acting choice, and to be honest, I did not ask her this.
How long was the process? How long did it take you to film this movie? Was there a set schedule when you needed to be finished by, or was it very loose?
You are talking about the principal photography. I mean, the shooting,
yeah,
right?
The principal photography.
Yeah. In the beginning of the film. That thing is not said. Yeah, 25. I think it took how many? 25 days. Yeah. But that is not mentioned in the beginning of the film. Leaked scenes from the 25 hours. No, that's 25 hours of footage. I forgot, actually. I have that info. I have that info on IMDb in the trivia everywhere. Yeah, for how many days I shot the film or something like that. It was not set in advance, I think. But I still had a time limit because I had a contract to use that pension, I think, for a month. I think. I'm not sure. I think I had for a month, so I had to fit within that month with working. And also there was a limit because actresses came, and there was a limit to how much they can stay there. With all the expenses and all that. So yeah, there were practical reasons for the limit, but not creative reasons for the limit.
Okay.
So I read that the executive producer, John Lepper, he watched some of the footage during production, and he actually called one of the actresses to make sure she was okay. Did this make you feel good about what you were doing, about the realism of the movie?
If it made me feel good?
Yeah, if it made you feel good about what you were doing, about how real it was.
Yes, it made me feel good. It made me feel good. And actually, I'm not sure. Maybe I shouldn't have, but it definitely made me feel good. Because for example, all this time I thought of, oh wow, that is like really. By the way, he didn't call the actress. He actually contacted the actress. Recently, when I told my wife about this, she took it in a totally different way. She took it like, okay, but isn't that a problem? Like you were in a business relationship with this guy, and he doesn't trust you literally and contacts the actresses. I never took it this way, I never took it as something unprofessional or betrayal or something. I took it as something funny, and actually, as you said, more like being proud of, wow, I could do it that well. Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to pivot to something different. Earlier, you were mentioning the challenges it took to try to get this movie into festivals and to get distribution. You're also known for trying to help filmmakers get into different festivals. Is this what prompted you to write the top 100 horror and fantasy film festivals and the top 100 international film festivals?
I think my first reason for doing that was like, okay, I did this huge I already had a good part of that list as a research. You know, I already did this huge research. I put these top festivals, all this, and then I thought, just a second, and then I was also helping another filmmaker. I literally worked, you know, like he was paying me some money to do a research for all the festival. I know, just a second, I'm confusing things. That was after I made the lists. Sorry. So the thing was this: I already had my own list in order to know which the festivals are best for my movie. And when I saw that there's so much info out there, and I need to put together so many other lists to take info from so many places, there was no definitive list. There was no recent list. There were all types of opinions scattered all over the internet. And I realized, okay, if I already did the effort to do this for me, for myself, why not put it out there? Like, it doesn't cost me anything to just put the info out there to help other people, you know? So my first reason was that, you know, like, if with a simple click I can put it for others, why not do it? You know, why just keep it for myself? There's no reason to be selfish. And
yeah.
but then I ended up working like hell on it, because putting it out there created a certain type of responsibility. I had to constantly update it. I had to make it like 1,000 times more research than I did for my own movie. Because for my own movie, I only thought about some festivals that were interested me. When I'm constantly updating these lists for everybody else, I need to consider everybody, you know, like all types of festivals, all types of movies, short, long, different genres, all types of criterias, what other festivals might be interested. Like, wow, like it's like really huge responsibility, and became so popular. These lists became so both the genre list, also the top 100 international film festivals list, because then I did also another list with all the film festivals, not only the genre ones. They became so popular, like literally, like they are in Google's first results, you know, when people search for this, and constantly I received messages from filmmakers saying like, wow, this is the Gospels, or this is the ultimate list, and all that. And to a point of me being a little bit scared by this, you know, because also festivals are closely watching this list, filmmakers are closely watching this list, and I just feel like the responsibility now is a little bit pushing on my shoulders, you know. I start to have a little bit anxiety about this, you know, because if I'm doing something, some festivals might get upset for not listing them high enough, and I don't know, they might think this way and just simply not select my movies because they are not in top 10 and they are in top 50, something like that. so yeah, I think it's I think this is definitely something that can help people. I intend to keep them there. Yeah.
Well, I hope you don't mind, but my next question is a little bit selfish. Okay, based on your knowledge of film festivals, we just finished a very low budget feature film called Pay Up. I wrote and directed it, and James helped me produce it. So we entered it in 5 major festivals, genre festivals, and then COVID-19 hit. What would be your advice for us moving forward with our festival strategy?
Is it a short film?
70 minutes.
Feature length.
Feature length. Is it genre film?
Yes. Yes.
Those festivals that you told me, they've already announced your film?
No, we've only entered 5 festivals. No answers yet.
You submitted. No response from them yet.
No, not yet.
And these festivals are now postponed because of the pandemic?
Only 1 out of the 5 is postponed, and they're going to have it online.
Well, for a feature film, definitely having a world premiere online, not a good thing, in my opinion. It depends how big is the festival at the same time. I mean, if that one is like literally the size of South by Southwest of Tribeca, like that big, then yeah, you can have it online, because being selected to such a top festival will still make distributors interested and stuff. If it's not that big, I would say don't go with the world premiere online. if it's not a festival that can just help you just with the name of the festival and just with being selected there. And the next strategy, always everything about features is about world premiere. Everything's about world premiere. For shorts, it's not like this. Shorts, they can go to smaller festivals and then build reputation in time and then select to a big one. To features, is kind of everything is downwards. Like you have the world premiere. If you have it in the second screening, the local premiere or the continental premiere, there will always be in smaller or at best equal festivals. You will never get bigger festivals than the world premiere. That's why you need to think very well of the potential of your film, and of your expectations, and don't settle for a world premiere in a smaller festival if you think that your film can do better than that. That would be my best advice. And submit. Lately, I did an update to my lists. I think that's also very important for the world premiere. Submit to festivals that are known to screen world premieres. There are some festivals that are known to do that. Other festivals are more inclined to select movies from other festivals. Like those would be better for the local or continental premiere, like European, American, and stuff like that, but not necessarily for the world premieres. So focus on those ones. In general, my advice is, in terms of features, when you first submit, your main focus should be the world premiere. That should be your main focus. Once you have the world premiere secured in a top festival, only then worry about the other things.
Perfect.
Yeah. And
thank you very much.
Yeah, and you can offer when you submit to festivals, mention this to them. Say that you are interested in having the world premiere with them. Like, it's good if they know this. And once you get selected you can also check more detailed submission tips. Actually, I put on my lists. If you will look at the bottom of my list, there's a very long list of submission tips. So there you can find a lot of more details that will make a lot of sense for you as well and your film. Yeah.
I really appreciate that, because I think a lot of upcoming filmmakers have a problem trying to figure out a strategy to release their films or a way to release them to festivals, because people are so new to the process that they don't know what to do. It's really cool that you are offering your experience to try to ease it up on other filmmakers.
Yeah, I even tried to, I don't know, I at some point I was hoping maybe I can even make a living out of it, but I don't know how to. That's complicated. I mean, there is that guy that has film, I forgot, he really makes a business out of it. Like, he has this website where people pay money and get advices in exchange for some packages and stuff like that, but I don't know how to do that. So I had some little jobs. Like, some people asked me to do some special, like to watch their movies, and based on the experience that I have with festivals and all that, and to make them a custom list of festivals, and custom advices for their specific type of film. So that's the only thing that I did kind of for money, because that requires an extra amount of work. I need to watch the movie and I think specifically for that movie what is required. But other than that, I put everything for free on my film festival list. Yeah.
Well, your upcoming film, We Put the World to Sleep, I know you can't give too many details about it, but how long did it take for you to get this movie made, including the rehearsal process that you go through?
In this movie, I would have to include also so many other obstacles that we had. Like, while I was preparing it, we were scammed by a producer who literally took 2 years of our life working on a fake film project. Lots of work, like huge amounts of work. Had to write a script for that one, had to write a script and lots of other preparations, did casting, did auditions, even met that guy in Bucharest at an audition, and he proved to be everything to be fake in the end. Fake contracts, fake signatures on contracts, like a horrible scam. Both my wife and I were involved, and this literally took 2 years of our life, also of resources and financial resources, and we were not paid in the end, of course, anything for all this effort. With the exception of a very small advance, but he only paid that small advance at the beginning in order to trick us into going into all this scam. So, so this practically prolonged the pre-production phase with 2 years, and affected also my character work, you know, because I was trying to a little bit live in character and focus on this project only, and I was totally taken away from that for 2 years, and then it was a bit harder for me to recover and come back to this and find again, as we were also affected on multiple levels by this. And then there were other issues. This project had a lot of issues. You know, it's like, I don't know, like those stories that you hear in the in about film history. You know, they just went into the jungle to make a movie, thinking that they will finish shooting in 1 month, and they returned after 5 years from the jungle. Kind of only we were into the jungle we were in urban jungle of difficulties and scammers and all types of that. Those things. Yeah, so you can imagine, like, I'm planning this film since 2016. So when I kind of finished with the festivals, I was not finished. Actually, I was still going to festivals with Be My Cat. So from 2016 till now, you know. Yeah.
So what would you say is the most difficult moment in your career, and how did you overcome it?
Most difficult moment in my career was just this, you know, like working for 2 years on a fictitious project and thinking that we have deals with the Hollywood production companies, you know, and everything, and then and having so much proof to believe in this, you know, like that producer came and received emails from types of people, and then to learn that everything was fake, like he was faking signatures, he wrote to us from a fake email address, impersonating other people. He even did that to other people around the world. I wrote an article about him in order to help other filmmakers not fall into the same trap. My article is on my website. It's international scam artist Andrea Corbella. He's an Italian guy. So he even has pictures. He went even to Cannes. He even was invited to film festivals in Brazil, literally on the stage. There are articles from Brazil saying like, oh, Hollywood producer plans to do a film with Anne Hathaway. By the way, there's an Anne Hathaway connection there. It's like, this is so crazy. Like he tricked so many other people. And after living a dream for 2 years, thinking that, oh, finally, like this Be My Cat thing brought the attention of some producers with Hollywood connections, and finally we are going to have our dream come true, you know, making this Blumhouse film, or, you know, and spending so much time, like day and night, working, developing that project, and during that time not receiving money, and also me and my wife spending all our economies, you know, everything that we had, the money that we had put aside, you know, and not being able to make money from other things because everything was postponed, you know. We were only working on that thing. In the end, was a huge blow, also personally, because we found out just moments when 1 month before we had to receive finally the payment, we learned that everything is fake and no payment is coming. So then just, oh my God, like no payment. My actual project has been postponed. My money has been spent. I don't have money to even pay the rent or buy food for the next month, or for us to be together, literally. So it was like literally like falling from the skies to the bottom of the hell. Yeah. And to be honest, at this point I'm still in the process of recovery from that. That happened in When did it happen? 2 years ago or when? Yeah. I'm still in a process of recovery from that, you know. Just little by little, I'm recovering from that. I did, because of that, even we put the work to sleep had to be made with a much smaller budget. I had to change the concept before we put the work to sleep because of that. Of course, hopefully this will prove positive in the end, the way it happened for Be My Cat. But yeah. I have this huge fear about this We Put the Work to Sleep project. I don't know. I think I don't know. I have this huge. I took so many creative risks with this one. Like what I did, the creative risks that I took with Be My Cat and improvisation, everything is nothing compared to the risks I took with We Put the Work to Sleep. Like I went like totally not the way people say you shouldn't do it. I did. Yeah, like so we will see. This will, I don't know. I don't know what will happen. I can't say anything. I think it will definitely. I think this will contradict or this will not meet people's expectations. But I cannot say if this will be a good thing or a bad thing. People might be literally disappointed, like, oh my God, but I was expecting that. No, I don't like it this way. Or it might be good, like might be the oh my God, I'm like so blown away. I was totally not expecting this. You know, I don't know which one of this will be with this movie. Yeah, we will see.
I wanted to go back a little bit. I read that when you were young, your mother used to take you to the movies a lot, correct? And one of the films that inspired you was 2001: A Space Odyssey. What are some of the films that you saw growing up that made you realize that you wanted to be involved in the filmmaking process, whether it was acting or directing or anything?
Yeah. Yeah. My mom actually did not take me to.
I'm sorry.
It was the moment immediately after the revolution, you know, and we used to have state theaters, and then the state theaters used to disappear one by one immediately after the revolution because there was nobody. There was no longer the state. The state was no longer administering the society and the institutions. It was total chaos, total political chaos. And at the same time, we did not have a functional capitalist system to replace the state system, you know? So nobody was taking care of anything at that point in Romania. Like, and all the theaters were like having no incentive to run movies. They were closing this and that. And this also coincided with I don't know, I think, my mom breaking up at some point, having some personal problems, and also the financial problems, you know, her mom dying, like a lot of personal problems, and that somehow she never thought of taking me to movies, you know. She was always thinking like, oh my God, how to provide some food for tomorrow or something like that. She was not thinking of entertainment. But she did. She was, before that, when she was younger, before I was born, she used to go to movies so much because in communist times, that was going to theater, to movie theater was the only way of having like something, wow, you know, colorful, flashy entertainment. And the movie theaters were like packed, like, based on what my mom was telling me, like you couldn't breathe in a movie theater. People were crazy going to movies, and they were also showing American movies, not politically things, you know, like things like westerns or Gone with the Wind, stuff like that, you know. And she used to have this collection of books about films, you know, like newspapers about films and stuff. So she did encourage me. That's what you, James, you were telling me about my mom encouraging me, but not taking me to the movies, but actually encouraged me to watch movies on TV. But it was not an encouragement. Oh, Adrian, go watch that movie. It was not like that. I think she was watching movies and I watched with her, or she was telling me about some movies. I don't know. I just feel like looking back that there was a certain type of an atmosphere in the house that was pointing out towards movies, but on TV, not in the theater. And then when cable TV was put, I started to watch so much. As I said, I used to go. The first film that impressed me so much that totally kind of. That's when I started to watch movies as a form of art. Before 2001: A Space Odyssey, I was watching movies, but I was not thinking of watching movies. Probably it was more like entertainment, or I was not actually aware that, hey, I am watching a piece of art now, you know? Like, oh, this is a special thing, a special experience that I'm going through. I was not aware of the experience that I'm going through and what's actually happening. But after 2000, when at some point I was like switching the channels on my TV, and a couple of scenes, I think, from 2000 Space Odyssey came up. You know, I think that was probably, I was like 16 years old or something like that. And I remember literally having the hair on my back went up. I think it was the scene when the monkey crushes the bones, or something like that. I'm not sure which scene was. And that was literally the moment that changed my life forever, that I felt like, oh my God, literally a revelation, the holy grail, the Pandora's box opened for me at that moment. And that's when I started to learn to read about film history. For example, every day after returning from high school, I didn't used to go home. I didn't have internet or computer at home. I used to go to a foundation which was offering computer and internet for free. I used to go there. I used to spend hours every day reading about film history. There was a website that was built back then. Now it's no longer built this way, unfortunately. But back then was built like an encyclopedia, providing info about the best movies in film history. It was allmovie.com. I used to read like crazy about those films and even take notes and stuff. And then I used to buy a TV guide, hoping that some of the masterpieces I was reading about will be shown on TV. So constantly following the TV guides and watching the important films in history on TV. And the movie that impressed me the most was this. Another movie that impressed me, but this was a different type of impression, was Carrie, as I said. But Carrie when I watched it, I don't remember literally the moment of me watching it and thinking, wow, this is such a film. I remember being impressed by that scene and the content and everything, and later realizing the huge impact it had on me. It's like doing some certain types of films and thinking about certain types of concepts, and then you realize, just a second, this is so much this is so much an influence that's coming from me watching that movie when I was a child. You realize that some of the things you are doing, I was subconsciously so much influenced by Carrie, by that film, and I think by other horror or horror films probably, or thriller films. Even Psycho, for example. Right now I don't like the movie Psycho, and I don't even remember watching it. But at some point, even before having cable TV, again, after the revolution, because before the revolution, I'm not sure if they showed these movies that were a little bit extreme during communist times. After they started to give, to show them on TV, and I think my mom was telling me at some point something about it or to watch it, and I think I might have watched the shower scene, although I don't really remember it. But based on the fact that I'm inclined of working, playing psychopath roles, I did Be My Cat, I think I watched it and somehow subconsciously impressed me, left a mark on me as a little child, and that's why I'm making these types of films, I'm not sure. But now watching again, I rewatched Psycho. It didn't impress me at all, but Carrie impressed me a lot now. When I rewatched the scene, the ballroom scene. It gives me like I'm seeking even now of emotion when I see that scene. Yeah, that's obviously something strong for me. And then there was the Blair Witch Project, but the Blair Witch Project, as I said, was in connection with the acting studies that I did. So practically that made sense and made a bigger impact on me when I read how the way it was made, and when I made the connection between the way I was making films, you know. Yeah.
Well,
Sorry. I said something wrong. When I made the connection between between that and the way I was making my theater shows, you know, about the theater method of doing shows. Yeah, sorry.
But I just wanted to take a moment to commend you for all your hard work and for all the risks that you've taken in your career. And I'm a huge fan of your film, Be My Cat, and I can't wait to see what you do next. And I also commend you for using your success to help other filmmakers. I really, and that's really.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you so much. Yeah, and hopefully, I wish you all best of luck with your feature as well. Like you did it together with James, like you two.
Yes, we produced it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, wonderful. Yeah, wish you best of luck, and I will check it out. I'm curious. Didn't know you actually had a project.
Yeah.
Cool.
We're gonna wrap this up, but before we go, do you have is there any websites or anywhere where people can keep up with what you do and your work and all your current projects coming out?
Yeah, they can I think if they want to support me and also keep up with exclusive things of what I do, they can do that on my Patreon account. I have a Patreon account where I'm actually putting exclusive info, things that I don't make public, behind the scenes, exclusive advices, stuff like that. And there is also a ton of info that I make public, but there is also that, and that's where people can also support me, like with $1 a month. And that would be like wonderful if people can do that. And also they can follow me on Facebook, both my personal profile and my Facebook page. They can follow my website. They can subscribe to my website. They can follow my Twitter. They can follow my Instagram. Sorry, they are, all these things are linked from my website, which is adriantofei.com. So practically my full name written together.com. That's my website, and all these links can be found there, including the film festival, the advices for filmmakers, link to my Patreon page. Everything is there. Yeah.
But we'll make sure to put all those links along with this podcast, and we're also going to put it on YouTube, the video, and we'll put all your links there. And we just want to thank you very much for coming on the show with us.
Thank you so much as well for giving me the opportunity to talk about these things, and yeah, hopefully some people will learn something more than the thing that I've already said before. I think there are some things that I've never said before, and I said it now. Every time there's something new. some things repeat, like there are some things that I said before probably in other podcasts, but every time there is something new at the same time that just comes to me. Oh, I haven't talked about that. I think there was some of that even now.
Very good.
Well, yeah. I wanted to thank you for your time and taking your time to go to do this interview. And it's very interesting because we have a 10-hour time difference. It is the morning over here in the United States as we record this, and I believe it's already deep into the evening in Romania.
Yeah. Sorry, probably you had to wake up too early for me.
Oh, no, I don't mind.
Okay.
It's our pleasure.
Our pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Too.
All right,
Okay.
Adrian Tofei, everybody.
Okay.
Horror show exclusive.
All right, we hope you enjoyed that interview with Adrian. Lots of fascinating information there, and I hope any filmmakers out there trying to make a name for yourself, listen to this guy. He has a lot of great advice. Look in our description, and you can find all the information on Adrian Tofei, where you could reach him, how you could read his guides on the best horror film festivals or the best genre film festivals to enter your projects in. That's all we have for today, folks. Until next week,
Happy horror.